It's been several days since that massive terrorist attack on the Russian, well, you can call it a hall, some people call it a mall. It really was a concert venue and a mall at the same time. And since then, there are more questions than answers out there, especially with Russia doing everything in their power to try and put blame on Ukraine, even though there is zero evidence at all. And as the days go by, things are getting more and more odd, with even people saying that, hey, some of the people in the audience look like FSB, which has not been confirmed. So I figured let's go ahead and talk about this just because there's just too much that's going on and not enough answers out there. Now, as you may know by now, the death count in that is continuing to rise. It's been confirmed that 140 people have died, though we expect that number to rise because the one thing that people aren't talking about is the fact that there's still 95 people not accounted for. Now, when these terrorists came in, which ISKP did claim responsibility for, they went into the building, they did what they did, they did something to the roof. We still don't even know how they got the roof on fire, but they put an explosive up there or they lit a fire and then they escaped. During that time, somehow, people were not able to get out of the building. Another question we don't know or how that even happened. And that right there had caused very poor quality of air inside the building, which caused a lot of those people to pass out and eventually die. That's why that number is so high. But with 95 people still missing, people are wondering where they are. A lot of people in this building were trying to get out as fast as they can. And so it's possible these people are still in rooms and areas that have not been explored yet. So there's a lot of questions right there we still don't know answers to whatsoever. When it comes to Russia blaming all of this on Ukraine, that's another oddity that we're still trying to figure out. Because ISIS-K had taken responsibility on that day. Then Russia said they didn't believe them. Then ISIS-K released photos and videos showcasing that yes, it truly was them. And I don't know why Russia doesn't want to believe that it's just this one organization, an organization that they themselves have harmed in the past. I don't know why Russia's not getting that. And that brings it to another point of back on March 7th and 8th, not only was the Russian government warned about this, but they also were able to find out other information about this attack before it happened. And by they, I'm referring to the United States. The United States put out an announcement on that March 7th and 8th, along with the UK, letting the Russian government know that, hey, something is about to go down, you need to let the people know. And Russia didn't want to do that. So publicly, both of the organizations in the United States and UK came out and said, hey, if you're a US or UK citizen, don't go to any large gatherings whatsoever for the next 48 hours. We have information that some kind of threat could happen, and it was an extremist threat, exactly what happened in this mall. The question a lot of people are wondering is, why didn't Russia listen to that? Why is it something that Russia decided to ignore? They could have put things in place. Another great example is the fact that it took an hour for the Russian National Guard to get here. Why is that? That is a lot of time. The second that something like that happened, you usually get a response within 10 minutes. It took Russia an hour for the National Guard to come in and finally start evacuating the building, getting people out, which left time for those in ISIS-K to move around the country. Which brings up the next point of Putin stating, which, keep in mind, it took him almost a full day to respond to his people, to say that these terrorists were going to Ukraine because a window had been established, something that was extremely not true, and every single country came out and said that no, Ukraine had nothing to do with this. And yesterday was just another understanding of how Putin is lying to people, because Lukashenko, who, if you don't know, is the president of Belarus, which is right next to Russia. We say president with quotes because he is a puppet president that Putin himself had put together in order to run that country and allow him to do anything he wants inside the country. So anytime that Putin says, I need to put troops here or nukes or this or that, he just calls Lukashenko and goes, hey, we're doing this. This is a person that the people from Belarus did not want. There was an opposition who was forced out of the country. I think she's living in Germany or Poland at this time. So this is someone who those people did not want at all. Lukashenko was the last person they wanted. They did not want a dictator. Well, Lukashenko, who's never spoken out against Putin because Putin can threaten him, came out and said, I don't agree with what he is saying. There's no evidence that these guys were going to Ukraine. The only evidence which was there is the way that the cars and the movement of the terrorists went. They were going right across. The fastest way out of the country was to Belarus. And as soon as the Belarusian police, National Guard, and army found out, they started setting up perimeters and started putting teams together to stop these guys at the border. When those terrorists found out, they changed their direction. Then they started heading south. That is where I guess Putin's mindset kind of went. Like, oh yeah, they were going that way. So clearly there, and Lukashenko goes, no, that's not true at all. That's not what happened here. Which I know a lot of people joke about, and they're saying, well, Lukashenko's going to fall out of a window, making fun at the joke that every single person who's a whistleblower for Russia or does something wrong falls out of a window or gets hit in a car accident, something like that. All that being said, today, we're finding a few, maybe not really big things. We're finding out some things that definitely need to be talked about. One is the spy chief in Ukraine. He came out and he said that we knew that this attack was going to happen, at least somewhere in the country, back in February. And, I mean, it wasn't Ukraine's obligation to say anything, but the United States and UK were the ones that came out and said, hey, we know about this. You need to protect your people. Now, you have to say to yourself, at what point can you help another country you're currently at war with? Because you could tell that the United States did try to help. The UK did try to come out and tell Russia, you need to stop this. But it seems that Russia themselves wanted this to happen. And that's what Ukraine is saying, is that it didn't matter how much advance warning, all the information you would give Russia. They wanted this to happen to find a way to pull Ukraine into this and say that Ukraine was a part of it so that they can mobilize more people in their country and or maybe get some more support. We don't really know what his main objective is. I think that's really what it was, though, is that he wants to pull his country just deeper into Ukraine, and he has to have some kind of false flag operation to do so. And that is something that Russia is known for. They've done a lot of that in the past, and do we really expect them to not do that here? I mean, they tried doing that with nukes and cluster bombs when they went to the UN and saying Ukraine did all this stuff. And I think that Russia forgets the US has satellite imagery and live imagery. So I'm sure that when the thing went down in Russia, I'm sure that the US had satellites overhead or something looking down on this, and could probably even prove that to Russia. But when it comes to the Russian state media and just the Russian state, you can show them all the evidence in the world and they'll say, oh, that's fake. All that being said, today, Russia is continuing to say that Ukraine had a part in it. To read one of the senior officials' quotes, this is something that, once again, Russia's trying to pin on Ukraine. He says, quote, we believe that the action was prepared by both ISKP themselves and was facilitated by Western special services. Once again, trying to indicate that Ukraine or even the United States had a hand in this, even though they're the ones who warned them that this was going to happen. He continued by saying the special services of Ukraine were directly related to this. So he's doubling down on his words and Putin's words, even though there has been zero evidence so far that Ukraine, the United States, or the UK had anything to do with this. And it's quite interesting because ISIS-K, in a way, they're upset. They're upset because Russia does not believe it was them. You know, they think that Russia is trying to blame someone else, but they're doing this attack and they want the credit for the attack. And because the rest of the world is not going along with it, or at least Russia's not going along with it, that could open up for bigger, worse things down the line. And I know right now, Russia is having their courts on live TV and showing us photos and videos. Of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But all I can say is Russia is still, no matter what, it doesn't matter how many times countries have to tell them that Ukraine had nothing to do with this, they're going to find a way to say that Ukraine did this, or Ukraine helped in some way, or they gave cover, or they did that, just so that they can pull their own people into a war deeper into Ukraine and justify and say, well, it's because they helped, we have to go in, even though, once again, there is zero proof. Now, the big question that I've been getting online is that, well, if the US and the UK warned Russia and the FSB that this would happen, why didn't they take any steps to prevent it? And unfortunately, there is no answer to that. Once again, it leads a lot of people to believe that Russia wanted this to happen, which is absolutely horrible. And if you go back in history, you have seen Russia do this before, so that's where you start saying, you're like, oh, well, you can't say, oh, I wouldn't believe they would do that when they've already done that in the past. With all that being said, I want to know what you think about this in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we are trying to build up this channel. We really don't know what's going to happen to TikTok down the line. To be honest with you, I'm very frustrated with TikTok, especially because, at least I could say this on here and I got penalized for it. When it comes to TikTok, you know, I had on the 26th, I was the one who was breaking all the news stories about what happened in Baltimore. And what's frustrating is the fact that we did about 5.5 million views that day. It's probably one of the most watched days we've had in quite some time. Mostly because I'm up on the overnights and it happened at 1:30 in the morning. I found about it around 2 a.m. So I was the first person to post on it. And because of everything that had been happening with TikTok and the way that they were changing things, obviously they're being, you know, potentially banned. They changed their beta program to a regular creator program. And, you know, I think you've seen it too. A lot of people, a lot of big names on there had decided to leave. And I can understand why. In changing the creator program, it went from like 1,000 views. It was like maybe about, I know for us, it was like about 15 to 20 cents, maybe a little bit more depending on the week, to where now it's like for every 1,000, it's like 0.2 of a penny. So it's like for 5.5 million views, that was $12. So I can understand why so many people are getting pissed off about the whole situation, because financially it makes no sense. You're supposed to reward their creators, not hurt them or harm them. And because of that, TikTok's going to go away somehow. You know, whether it gets banned or whatever, looks like the downfall of TikTok. We'll save that for another video. With all that being said, let me know what you think in the comment section. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. I'll see you later. Bye.